Alright, well I fixed my camera. It is a Nikon Coolpix S9900. This was the piece of plastic that was hung up in the gears. This is just a piece of plastic that fell out of it. I think it's a tab that broke when I was pulling it apart. But anyway, this is a really long video. Sorry about that. You're just going to have to deal with it. I don't have the video editing software at the moment. But you can fast forward it through it. I've never taken this apart. There's no other video on YouTube about this camera being pulled apart. So you're going to check out the rest of the video and see what I did to fix it. Hope it helps. Be very careful. Label all your screws and everything as you do it, and you'll see. So here's my Nikon camera, and I've got it all apart but connected, and for some reason I had to disconnect. I think this is the flash GPS thing, but that's the only ribbon that is not connected. Otherwise the entire camera is connected while still being apart. I've got the CCD isolated so it doesn't short out. I've got this mini circuit board down here isolated so it doesn't short out. You can see it's flashing right now. I just put the battery in. What I'm troubleshooting is I get a lens error, and I'm wondering if this motor is the one that's not working, because I hear a noise. So what I've got is I've got this red gear pulled out of there so that I can see if maybe the motor is trying to turn. But I just tried it and it doesn't seem to be, the sound's not coming from that motor, it's coming from maybe the other motor right down there. But this is how I'm troubleshooting this. So let's turn it on and we can see what's going on. So yeah, I turn it on. Okay, and then I get this lens error. Yeah, so right now I've tracked it down to not being this motor anymore. It seems to be something in the mechanism going on with maybe the other motor. So I guess I just keep digging in further. This was a challenge getting apart. I've got all the screws and what they go to as I took it apart. There's a heat sink, parts of the hinge, and just like all kinds of things. But here we go. Onward. Okay, I don't know if this is gonna do it or what, but what I've got here is I got this thing apart, and what I did was there's a little gear in there, and I spun it to reposition the gray plastic piece all the way out, because how this looks like it works is this little guy here goes down and clips into a port right on the side there, and it looks like it detects the little piece fin of the gray piece, but it wasn't all the way up, and maybe the sensor needs a detector to be all the way up for the lens to work. That's the theory that I have right now and what I'm trying. So I spun it until it was all the way up, but to get that apart you have to be really careful. I just lifted this piece up just enough to get the gray piece out of there without pulling any of these other ones up. And then also this ribbon that goes along the side, I had to undo that and very carefully angle it to get around there. It's really delicate work, but with with tremendous luck this might fix it, but I'm not really, I have no idea, but it's worth a try, I guess. This is pretty neat. It was not really, so this motor controls this piece, which moves the second lens down here up and down for like a focus. And I don't know, maybe it wasn't, because it wasn't moving before, and now when I pulled that out it moved freely, so that definitely controls that, and that's where the noise was coming from. So put this together and see what happens. Hello YouTube world. I just fixed my Nikon S9900 camera and I'm really happy. So let me, since YouTube didn't have any videos on this camera about taking it apart or anything, I figured I'm borrowing a phone right now to film and show you what I did. But right now, so I don't have a tripod for this camera, so you're gonna have to bear with me while we go through this, but you can see it was a major undertaking. If it focuses, all the screws and parts, and so let me rubber band this camera to something and I'll show you what I did. So right now, if I turn it on, I have to pinch this because it's all apart. It'll work. See? It just kicks right on. Before that, it was giving me a lens error. It would like make a sound and then it wouldn't work and just give me a lens error. So let's show you what I did. Let me pull the battery. I always pull the battery before I do anything on this thing. Okay, so then I will pull this guy back. Okay, we're having technical difficulties with this phone. Alright, let's see if I can get this going now. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this back apart. Pull this out. Let me show you what's going on here. I probably should pull this ribbon. So, let me pop this ribbon. I'm going to have to pop that anyway. Okay. So, alright, what we've got here is, first I tested this motor. If you have to pull this apart, that plastic piece, there's a little thing you pull up there and pull up on the other side and that comes off, and then you can actually take two screws and pull that motor off. Or if you want to just test the motor, you can pull this red gear out and then you can see if it spins. So you can pull that gear off actually and you can spin. Let me just show you. You can spin this black gear and you can move the entire mechanism. Oops, wrong way. See, there you go. You can move the entire mechanism out and it'll go all the way out, and then when you're putting it back in, you actually have to move this little lens up here to get it to pop back together, and make sure none of these pieces pop out. It's kind of difficult filming this. Okay, anyway, I don't want to do that, but you can spin that gear and zoom the entire lens out. Now this is what my problem was. There's a little itty bitty motor here, and what that does is it moves this piece here up and down, that's attached to another lens underneath this lens, and it focuses up and down. And so what I had to do was I had to pull this piece of tape off, and then you see how this ribbon's attached by those two little holes and like anchors or posts or whatever. You lift those up and then free that ribbon. Then you have to kind of angle this ribbon down and get it around this tab so that the ribbon's free. Then you can take that little screw out And I can't stress this enough, but you have to be very, very careful when you're pulling that motor out. I think I have another video I'll put in here. But I have to lift this piece out. Well, first off, you've got this spring here. So you have to undo the spring, and that spins around, and then remove the spring, and remember how the spring goes back on. Then you lift this out halfway, and then when you're pulling the motor, there's a gray piece, and you have to remember how that piece comes off of this shaft here, and then that gray piece sits in between this motor around the thread that goes all the way down here, and then there's a white piece that's on the thread that goes up and down, and that basically lifts this up and down to focus. So my theory was, oh, also this little thing here where the ribbon comes around, that's some sort of sensor. So what you have to do is you have to take a little tiny toothpick or something and pop that sensor off, and that'll free up the motor too. And what I thought was this gray piece of plastic wasn't lifting all the way up underneath the sensor, so I figured I would move the shaft and the screw gear all the way up so that the white piece lifted that up into the sensor. Maybe that would fix it. So when I was putting this back together, I noticed it wouldn't go in all the way. And I never forced anything on this. I've been very careful since I don't know what I'm doing in the first place. And it wouldn't go down. And I looked down into that hole, and there's a little piece of plastic in there, and it was hitting it. So there was something broken, and I tried getting the plastic out, and I think it fell out over here. I'll look for it later. But something inside this actual mechanism broke, and it got jammed up in the gear. And I don't know whether lifting that into position or getting that piece of plastic out of being jammed up is what fixed it. But whatever I did fixed it. So there was definitely a broken piece of plastic in there, and that wasn't lifting up into the sensor. And so if you do attempt to take this apart, just really be careful. Do it really gradually, be patient, make sure that these are not falling out. Take pictures too, because then you can refer back to the pictures on how it goes together. And so now I will put this back together and show you more. Maybe I'll just leave the camera running while I do that. Okay, so the next step is, let me undo this ribbon. Okay. So these are tricky too. I've undone these several times now, but I use a really sharp knife, which is probably a bad idea because it just slips and cuts something. But I lift up to release the ribbon, and then that comes out. Okay, so the other thing I learned on this thing is this goes back together. Make sure I have everything in there. Oh yeah, I've been cleaning dust off of it with a Q-tip as I go. There's little pieces of dust. I never liked this Nikon because it gets dust in the lenses so easily. But at least now that I know how to take it apart, I can clean the dust off. That was one major complaint I had with this camera. Okay, so that goes in like that. And when you're putting this back together, I don't remember that being like that. Hold on a second. I don't remember that being like that, but I guess it was. Okay, guess it was. Okay, so whoops. This goes in. Just be very gentle. And that goes down. And one thing I realized is when I'm pushing this down, this ribbon, I always have to hold it down to get it underneath the plastic. There we go. and now that looks like it's down. So there are 5 screws that hold this thing in. There were 2 that had more of a round top that go in the side here, and just put that. You're just gonna have to deal with me. You can fast forward the video, but I'm limited on being able to videotape this, so you can thumbs down at whatever you want, but I'm just gonna do this, and maybe it'll help somebody out. Okay, so there's another one that goes in there, and put this. It's also taking me longer because I am videotaping it and having to hold it up in the air, which is probably not a good idea. By the way, it's raining outside, so you're going to hear some thunder. Okay, I got those 2 screws in, and now there are 3 that were more shiny that go. Maybe they're the same. Maybe it was just me. Yeah, they look the same. So there's 5 screws that hold this thing together. Now I haven't put this camera back 100% together since I took it apart, so we're gonna have fun trying to figure out how to get this back together. This just saved me a lot of money and time trying to either buy a new camera or get this one fixed, though. I don't know if this is still recording. Yeah, it is. Okay. So we are going to put this in. Okay. That is all together now. All together now. That's a song. An old song. Okay. Now, it feels loose. Maybe that's good, because it didn't feel loose before. That certainly seems loose. Oh well. At least it's working. Okay, next, since I got the battery pulled, I don't have to worry about shorting out, I hope. Okay, so let's go ahead and undo these ribbons to this little mini circuit board. I wonder if I should change the resolution on this video, because I think I'm going to run out of space. Okay, so those are done. Now I got this little circuit board off, and I need to attach that back onto this board, or this heat sink, whatever it is. So that goes in like that, and then I've got the screw labeled over here. I lay out a piece of paper and label where the screws went to, and as long as I don't drop them, then I'm good. And grab it. Okay. So, what am I doing? This is a little itty bitty screw. Let me see if I can get this in here. I don't even have a screwdriver small enough for this one, so I use the wrong screwdriver here. Let's see if I can get this in there without dropping the screw on the floor. Yes. Oh, shoot. Okay. Okay, don't slip. So now that's screwed on. Next thing I want to do is see if we can figure this out. Next thing, that ribbon is in, but I don't know if it's in that good. Hopefully it's in good enough. Okay. Next thing, I am going to actually put this in. Yay, I fixed it. Okay, I think this was coming off last time and got stuck. I might have to re-glue this. I hope not. Pull that out of the way. Let's see if I can get that out of the way. Alright. That is in now. And then I have to get these ribbons into their locations, and to do that I use these kind of bulky tweezers, and try not to pinch it too tight to ruin it. That's not in all the way. There we go. Okay, that is now in all the way. Use the screwdriver to push the, I don't know what you call it, back over. And now I get this one. Is this still recording? Yes. Okay, let's see. Go in. Okay, that is now in there. Now we push the seatbelt on. Okay, then we got this one. Hopefully it's long enough. No, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. Getting in there. This is probably really boring to watch. Okay, that's in. Move that over while I... Okay, that's on. Okay, let's see. I don't know. I guess I can try to show you what I just did. I tried to push all three of those ribbons in and see how it's like there's a black part and a gray part. The gray part lifts up. If you don't know how that works, then you probably shouldn't even attempt this, because that can break easy if you're just pulling at it. But it kind of like lifts up. So next thing to do, I think the next thing is this guy here. So this actually needs to come in this cable ribbon as we go into there. And I don't know if this is going to work. Okay, that's in. Now, down. Okay, I hope that's in. Now this needs to come down. This heat sink's something else. I guess that goes on the outside. Oh yeah, there's a loose piece there that thankfully has stayed there. Let's see. This ribbon needs to come around that. I think this is going down. See, that's something that it helps knowing, paying attention when you take those apart, because I don't know what side that goes on. Does that go like that? That looks good. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Guess that goes. We're back. So the video stopped because I ran out of storage space. But anyway, there's a screw. Oh yeah, this is what's loose. There's 1, 2, 3. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4 screws hold this heatsink on. But before you do that, this piece, you can see I put a arrow there. This piece goes on here. And I am just kind of hoping I'm putting it back together right, because there's so many overlapping things. But if you attempt this, you should probably try to do a really good job remembering and labeling everything. So I've got those screws here. I've got all these kind of notes for myself putting it back together. So let me put this back up here and we'll go through finishing this up. Okay, so okay, that one fit in there. And this one, it's in there. And by the way, I found the broken pieces of plastic. Can you see them there? That is what was hanging up the mechanism. And I don't know what they are too. Hopefully the camera's not going to just break again. But it was working when I tested it. And hopefully it'll just keep working. So the next one is here. And then the fourth one, I think, goes here. Yes. Okay. Make sure that's in. Don't want to strip it. Don't want to strip the head. And that one ribbon did go underneath the circuit board there. Okay, next we've got to put, let's see, okay, I think this screw, should I do this screw next? This screw went right by the motor. Where did my screwdriver go? Right. Okay, so we have one screw right here on the side by the motor. Put that in. Okay. Put the battery all the way out. Then, see, that was all that. 5 ports, hinge, out. Okay. So next thing I think I'll do is hook this ribbon up. Let's put this back. Okay, so which way does this go? It's difficult holding. I need another hand. Okay. Just push that in there. Nope. Come on. Right in there. Okay, it's in. Don't move. Don't breathe. I'll make sure it's in more. Come on. Stay in there. And then push that back down. Come on. Gentle. Done. Okay, that's on. Now, this is where it really comes together. I don't think that mattered. Okay, so this is what was difficult about taking this apart, is I didn't know what I was doing. And one of those broken plastic pieces might just be one of the clips that holds this piece down. Let me, I don't know. Okay, let's just work this down. That's not down enough. Okay. This comes down. It doesn't look like it's going to go all the way in there. It's hanging up on something. Oh, what is that? There's a spring that doesn't look like it's right. Yeah, that doesn't look right. It's not good. There's definitely a spring there that's not in place. What would that even be to? Oh, it's to the battery thing. Uh-oh. Okay, well that's another lesson you can take away from this. I'm going to stop the video while I try to figure that out. Alright, so we got it figured out. So what happened was, let's see if I can, this little tab actually holds that spring in for the battery release. And another thing is, there's actually a tiny, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a tiny little hole on this piece and the heatsink piece. There's a little post that goes in there to hold that in position. So there's two more things that we learned. And I am going to put this back together now. It's one screw. It's two. And we've got, let's see, I think one went here, 3, and 4. Then we have the one over here on the side by the motor. Sucks that together. Okay. Then I have to put these back together. So I'm monotonous. Put these ribbons in so many times now. Let's push this camera back against that. Hopefully this thing still works when I get back together. That keeps hitting that tab. Stop moving. Push this back down. Oh, it doesn't go very good. Okay, then we got this one. And then push that back down. Okay. Now that's down. Now, try to get this back on. I think this side should go on first because it goes around that stuff. And then this goes... Alright, snap. So when I was pulling this apart for the first time, there is something, there's like a tab right here, and you can't get any sharp blade in here. I don't remember how I popped that apart. I kind of just, I don't remember. I twisted and pulled and eventually it popped apart. But there is a tab there. It's very difficult to get that snapped apart. And the rest of it's just a matter of screws everywhere. And screws, so this hinge was a little bit tricky. I had to take the hinge apart like halfway. There's a screw here, a screw here, then, and those I think popped this piece off, and then once you get that piece off, I don't remember, see that screw right here though in the middle? You have to do something, you have to get this piece off of the center of the hinge in order for you to get your screwdriver to be able to reach that screw. And that was a little bit tricky. So yeah, you had to take some screw to pop this center plastic piece apart before you could get that one, and the middle one. But then you've just got these 3 screws here. You don't have to worry about any screws in there. There's 2 screws here. There is a screw right here. There is, oh, that's not popped, there we go. There is a screw inside this flash compartment. There's a screw here, and that might be it. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, and if you attempt this, good luck. I hope you fixed your camera too. And I hope this video is helpful for people. Alright, I had to take it apart again because one of the ribbons wasn't all the way in, prevent it from turning on. But to show you, when you get all the screws out, how to pop that apart is I stick a little screwdriver in here and lift out because there's a tab there, and if you get it in just the right spot, or no, actually, sorry, scratch that. I was trying that and it didn't work. So then I was able to pull up on the top and then get this in there and lift out, and it just popped right apart. And you want to take that side off first and then this side, because this side between the little jacks and this tab, that kind of like goes in there. It's kind of like it slides in there and then snaps on that side. And then for the order of this, these two screws come out before you pull it apart. Then you put this piece down. You put that piece down. Then you open this up, and well, this is going in reverse. Okay, so then you open that up. Then with that piece on there, then you have those two screws on the sides where my thumb and finger are. And so those two screws. Then once that is on, then you put this flat piece in there on that hinge side. Then you put this rounded piece like this on that side, and then you screw that together. I think that's how it goes. And then I put all the other screws in. Okay, hope that helped.